And ladies and gentlemen, we have the even more amazing Hannah MacInnes, who is hosting and interviewing her. So put your hands together with a forum brilliance for the one and only Dolly Alderton!
These wilderness audiences are amazing. Obviously, it's because of our very brilliant guests. Welcome back if you were here for The Meaning of Life with Richard Dawkins. I think we might be talking about quite similar things, just as profound, perhaps slightly less scientific. But welcome to the most exciting last-minute schedule event in a festival that we can remember. It's very, very fortuitous that this genius last-minute bit of scheduling enables me to talk to someone who I can see you all obviously know continues to take the world quite by storm. She's very many things to very many different people. I think to everyone she is, of course, the author of the memoir that has touched so many hearts over the past few years, a story of love, very funny, moving, profoundly relatable to many of us, Everything I Know About Love. I wonder if anyone in this room has not heard of it or read it.
I'm looking at a few blank male faces.
So no one, yeah. So the obviously that has been turned into, as I'm sure you'll all know, a super successful BBC TV series, making her also a super successful screenwriter. She's a novelist, and her novel Ghosts came out straight into the bestseller lists in 2020. She is also, of course, I'm going to keep this quite brief, but I've got to get these things in, a hugely successful original legend of the podcast scene. Before it became kind of more original not to have a podcast than to have one. I'm sure everyone knows The High Low, which she co-hosted with Pandora Sykes. I think it was 150 episodes, maybe more than that. 4 years. I know it broke many hearts. I'm sure lots of your hearts here when it ended. Also the host of Sentimental Garbage and Love Stories podcasts. And last but really so much not least, she's of course the resident agony aunt at Sunday Times Style, and in October has a book coming out that will bring together and bring to life that column. So Dolly, thank you so much for coming to Wilderness and being here in this tent today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and also thank you to every single person that's in this tent who could be like doing shrooms in a disco tent right now. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Shall we... Well, I was going to say, is this your first time at Wilderness? How are you finding it? Thank you for being in this tent and not doing that. Are you a good festival goer?
Yeah, I haven't... I was at Wilderness last time when I was 25, and obviously the big difference now is that people recognise me at festivals. And I think any other author, like if you were Richard Dawkins or whatever, if you were dancing like a maniac to Peggy Goo with your jaw in a different county... basically that potentially could be a Twitter thread. But luckily, I told on myself in my first book, so there's nothing anyone can discover about me now.
In my head of Richard Dawkins dancing in a tent or whatever it is. But maybe that's going on right now. It's hard to know where to begin, but I think we should begin with your column. And I've heard you say that you always wanted to be an agony aunt. And I hope you won't take this the wrong way, because I think sort of everything that you do to me feels hugely enviable. A hugely successful writer, screenwriter, podcast host. But I can't understand what you would love so much about having to face everyone's problems every day. So tell us why you love it and why you coveted it as a job.
I think I like it because it's perfect for this time of life for me now, because I don't... You know, I did this kind of general column for the Sunday Times after my dating column finished, which was an absolute fucking disaster, because I don't like giving my opinions on anything, particularly not the news, and I don't want to talk about my personal life anymore, which meant if you ever go back and read that sort of Wilderness 2 years of that general column in the Sunday Times Style, it's like, this week, Dolly Alderton, 800 words on why she likes the swimming pool. It's just like general nothing-y meander. Yeah, they were so shit. So the good thing about being an agony aunt is that you can speak in a way that is intimate without talk about all the stuff I really care about, which is like our relationships, our family life, our friendships, but without, and actually I kind of stand in plain sight in a lot of those columns. Like when I first started the column, I was going through a horrific heartbreak. And when I read those columns back, there'll be like quite a mild letter from a girl being like, oh, I was like treated a bit badly by my ex and I can't really get over it. And when you read my answer, I'm like, right. Let's get one thing straight. He didn't deserve you and he never deserved you. And I'm like completely mental. And it was basically like my open letter to my ex at the Sunday Times.
Did he get that message?
Look, there have been a lot of messages I've been putting out over that year, basically. Anything you saw in print or on Instagram was a direct press release for him. We are yet to know whether it was effective. But I think the thing that I like is that, a lot of the questions that I get, particularly from women, are my own dilemmas and my own problems. So it's like a real joy to think compassionately about another person, normally when it's actually something you're going through, because it means you can sometimes like show them the logic and the love that you can't show yourself. So a lot of the time in those columns I'm actually sort of just doing therapy on myself a bit.
I mean, I've heard you say that, so in a way Dear Dolly is, dear me, telling yourself, and is it advice that you can ever take? Are you learning to take your own advice?
Listen, I'm the most fabulous advice giver. I cannot believe how good my advice is, and I just never, ever, ever follow it.
I think that's pretty human.
Yeah, I think that's the raison d'etre of the agony aunt as well.
I know, I've heard you say that. Explain that. I've heard you say that sort of the agony aunt has to be an imperfect person. They can't have all the answers genuinely.
Yeah, I think that there's something to be said for like the messy agony aunt. And that's something I'm always like willing to point out in my copy, although the Sunday Times editors hate when I do it. They made me change a line this week where a girl was writing in about how she thinks she might have a drinking problem. Now look, I don't feel like I can really sit here and tell her she needs to cut back on booze or what is or isn't a drinking problem. So I said, I gave all of my advice and I said, but also you don't have to listen to me because I'm just a big dummy. And the Sunday Times were like, you can't put that. You're the advice giver. You can't say, don't listen to me, I'm a dummy.
But actually, people don't want a holier-than-thou person giving them advice, do they? They want exactly to know that everyone makes mistakes, I suppose.
Yeah, and also I'm very keen to point out, like, the easiest thing to say when you're an agony aunt is, that trope when you would read problem pages as a teenager, and every answer would be like, it's completely natural and it's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's like, I never thought I'd be that sort of person, but I'm now like one of those like matrons who would say like, when they, when girls are getting changed, would say like, it's nothing I haven't seen before, girls. Like, that's now my tone with them replying to women. I'm like, it's completely natural and you've got nothing to be ashamed of.
So someone from the Sunday Times is going to make you, dress. That's going to be your picture, the sort of matron look. But what's your process? Do you kind of have a sort of gut reaction to someone's problems? Or do you go away and sort of read sort of psychotherapists and
no.
self... You've been very open about your own having therapy.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of good advice that you've gained from sort of that.
Listen, I'm in therapy every week, mainly so I can repurpose her wisdom in my column.
I did not say that.
It's money well spent. No, I tell you what I do. I try, when I interviewed Graham Norton, he was an agony uncle, a very, very good one. And he said to me that he thinks the job of an agony aunt or an agony uncle is to empathise with the person that the agoniser is complaining about. So if someone writes in saying, my mother-in-law is being really difficult, or my boyfriend's drinking too much, or whatever, it would be too easy for me to just act like their friend in the pub and be like, do you know what? Fuck them. Like, that's what they've got their friends for. I think what an agony aunt or uncle's meant to do is say, well, let's try and imagine why they're behaving in this way and how you can communicate better with them.
It's a very good exercise in kind of empathy and putting yourself in shoes you would never otherwise put yourself in, I imagine.
Yeah. Again, don't do it in my own life, but I like to advise other people how to do it.
So, has anyone in here not read Everything I Know About Love? Oh, yeah, okay, there are a few.
Yeah, every man. every man in a baseball cap. Thank you for coming, fellas. I appreciate it. I'm sorry that your mad girlfriends made you come.
Okay, just for those few men in a baseball cap, can you recap what it is about? Even actually for those of us who've read it, because it's much more lovely hearing your explanation.
So, it is a memoir. It is... I didn't really know what it was about when I started writing it. It was just a kind of me telling my best stories of my 20s. It was kind of, I suppose, a coming-of-age story. And it was only when I was writing the last chapter that my editor said, you know, these can't be sort of just different stories cobbled together. You have to find some sort of thread that links them together, and I couldn't really work out what it was. And then I went back and read all the chapters, and I realised that there was one thing that was in every chapter of the book and in every chapter of my life, which was this group of women that I'm very close with, my best female friends. So initially, you know, I thought maybe it would be, because I'd been a dating columnist, I thought maybe it would be it would be a memoir about dating and love. Definitely wasn't that. Because, you know, I didn't have a huge amount of experience of that in my 20s, but I realised by the end that I had written this, like, very, I think, like, grand romantic story, but it was just, I had fallen in love in my 20s. It was just with my friends rather than with a man.
To ask you, but you can just feel it in this room, and you can see it in this room, what you feel like you sort of tapped into with its enormous success. I don't know if you expected such success.
No.
What do you think you tapped into? As I say, I feel like you get the vibe of what you tapped into just from all these people around with their female friends having a wonderful time.
Do you know, I think it's not a good idea, as tempting as it is when something goes really well in your career. I think it's not a good idea to focus too much and analyse too much on what it is about yourself that potentially has connected with people, because then you could sort of become a parody of yourself or something. I don't know. So I think what people maybe responded well to is that it was a story that elevated friendship to the same kind of level of storytelling that you would read about, you know, a romantic comedy or a heterosexual romantic story. I think people quite like the honesty. I was very honest, yeah, and it's because I didn't think it would sell that many copies. Like, if I knew, I wouldn't have written that much.
I mean, you say not false modesty. I think you will be modest about this, but honestly, do you think that honesty that you brought into that book has changed things a bit? Because I would say since that book, women have become, in their novels and in their literature and in their columns, there's generally a much wider sense of people feeling they can share things and stories. And do you think you played a part in that?
No, I don't think
I
so.
do. Do you think she did?
Thanks. That's very sweet of you.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the screenplay. How much did you want to sort of keep it true to the book, or how much also control did you want to have over it? Because it's a really interesting thing, and I've heard a lot of writers talk about the kind of hardness of letting it go, which I don't think you had to let it go that much.
No, I was a total control freak. I was on set every fucking day. And I was so embarrassing on set as well, because I wasn't the director who has to run quite a tight ship. I was sort of like the embarrassing supply teacher who wants to make friends with all the kids, but I just like sidle up to them by the catering and be like, hey, so how's it going? What's going on? How's it hanging?
Did anyone make a behind-the-scenes thing? I would like. Did anyone film behind the scenes for the cuts?
No, I think they were just like, who is this weird, tall woman who's meant to be the executive producer of this show, constantly trying to befriend us? But yeah, so I was very much like, I was very on set. I was very involved with the casting. I wrote every episode. I co-wrote one episode. And the making it fictional, that didn't bother me at all. That was my wish. You know, I wanted the cast and the world of the shows to be more expansive than the book had been, because I wasn't tied down by the facts of my life, so I could make it more kind of varied and interesting. And also, to be totally honest, there's stuff that I really wanted to put in the book that I couldn't, because my ex-boyfriends and my mum and dad were reading it. So I thought, if I put it in this world of semi-fiction, then, you know, if someone says to me, did that really happen to you? Did you drug your landlord? That was made up, promise. Or was it? No. Then I could be like, oh, who knows? It's fiction. Ooh, you know. Whereas, like, with the memoir, you're so accountable if you do, like, a direct adaptation of the memoir. And even in reviews, the reviews were mostly very, very positive, apart from a very po-faced one in The Guardian, but I've let go of it. But the reviews were very lovely. But it was so interesting how much the reviewers, like, were so livid that they couldn't, like, talk about Maggie like it was me. At one point in a review, they called Maggie Dolly. And it was like, Dolly makes some very weird decisions in this show. And it's like, it's not me. It's like a total... So even with that, like, different names, fictional world, it still felt like the way people were coming at it, understandably, critics coming at it, were like, who is this woman and what do we think about her? So, like, the further I can step away from that now, I just don't want that to be part of my career anymore. I just, yeah.
Why is that? As just more generally and more widely, you said it at the beginning, you said it again, you want to stop sort of sharing your own personal stories and kind of reacting to others more. So that was a conscious decision at some stage?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I just wonder why you sort of felt to do that.
I just can't cope with it. I don't have a thick enough skin. I just can't, it's too much. I can't deal with, like... people, I hardly post on Instagram about my life anymore, and I still, there's an part of me that really wants to, because I am a natural oversharer and I'm like a child of the internet, but it's just not safe for me to do that anymore, because I wish I was someone who, like, my friend Sarah Pascoe, who's a comedian, she got this gorgeous puppy a few years ago, and she said she put a picture up of it, and the first message she got was a bloke, she went, "Your dog's shit." And I'm just like, I just can't deal with that. I can deal with people being like, your book shit or your TV show shit, but I can't deal with people being like, your house is shit, your hair is shit, your dog is shit. If I was someone who really didn't care, if I were like, I don't know, Lady Gaga, if I was like just a cool woman with chutzpah, then I could deal with it, but I'm not. I'm just like a nervous lady who just like sits looking at her direct message requests, worrying that she might have upset everyone. So like I can't deal with it.
No. That we are. I mean, it's not that important what I've got to say. I'm glad yours is working. But surely, when you look around this room, you sort of heard the introduction, which was me trying to hold back on all the things that you've done. Do you ever take a moment and sort of say, yeah, well done me, I've got this, and I've sort of lived so many dreams and kind of succeeded in so many ways?
Yeah, I definitely do. Like, I mean, I definitely have that thing that I think is inherently quite female, of just thinking that it must be an accident or that it's going to go, or, I've sort of tricked everyone. But no, I do think it's important. I do think it's important in life to just take those, particularly when you've like slogged away at it, to be appreciative. And I feel like I'm getting better at doing that.
Good. Okay, I feel like I'm not checking my phone. I'm just making sure that I give time for audience questions, and I feel a bit sad that my question time's coming to an end. I'm just trying to think what to prioritise. I want you to describe, because I think you do it perhaps better than anyone I've heard, the sort of unbearable pressure and lack of fun that is dating in your 30s.
Yeah.
And whether you think like any woman will be able to sort of reclaim that and make that fun again.
Okay, here's the thing. This is going to sound super old-fashioned. I hate myself for saying this. I think you can if you don't want children. I think what just becomes really shit when you're a woman in your 30s is that you're aware that you have this kind of limited amount of time, a decade or whatever, to make that happen. And therefore, when you go on a date with a man, what used to be in your 20s, like, oh, wow, it's a Friday, I'm going to put on my new agent provocateur and we're just going to go to the pub and let's see where things go. Ooh, like, those days are done. Like, it's like, right, I am doing an interview tonight for the potential co-founder of my future company. And, like, even when you try not to think that, it is always slightly in the back of your head. And also what is annoying is millennial men don't commit, and they are like Peter Pan boys who just like keep their hinge age limit to like 29 and like, want to keep having fun forever. And I get it, if I were a man, I'd do the same. But like, it kind of leaves women a bit fucked. Like, it leaves our generation of women a bit fucked. And I I think the way that we can find empowerment in dating in our 30s, and it can be fun again. If I'm being completely honest, I think like we need to find a way of like gestating babies outside of the womb in like a plastic womb where women have nothing to do with it, and then I'm like, then we'll be able to have fun in our 30s dating.
I knew that was going to be very close to the meaning of life with Richard Dawkins. And actually talking about that, we asked him at the very beginning, what's the meaning of life? I'm going to ask you the same question according to Dolly Alderton.
The meaning of life, I think, is your personal relationships. So I think that's the... What's that? Oh, am I going to quote Larkin? Yes. Only had 3 drinks. No, it's not Larkin. Who says what will remain of us is love? It is Larkin, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. See, my fans are smart. So Larkin said what will remain of us is love. And I do believe that. Like, I think the legacy that you leave behind, and I think, like, the mark that you leave on the world and the way that you live on is the people you loved and who loved you, and the world you created together and the memories you created together. I just think, ultimately, it's just the biggest success. There's another quote it's just rolling off the tongue. I think it's a wonderful life. They say, no man is a failure who has friends. And I just really believe that. And increasingly as I get older, it's just that is the bedrock of everything. And that, I think, is the meaning of life.
I love hearing you have these conversations with yourself, like, am I going to quote Larkin? Yes, he's coming. And I just wonder if you'd be as surprised as me to find out, as I found out from a Radio 4 documentary the other day, that some people have no inner monologue.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you read that piece about how apparently Larkin had the biggest dick ever. Did you read that piece? Apparently it was so big it, like, haunted him. And if you go back and read his poetry, it actually makes a lot of sense. Anyway, people don't have an inner monologue. No, it's... Do you know what, the other day, you should go read the piece, it's so good. And I love the title of it was This Be the Curse. It was so good.
Where did we find that?
Spectator, obviously. The inner monologue thing, I notice it with the men in my life. Like, sometimes I'll just look at them, like, chopping vegetables or, like, shaving, and I'll just be like, what's going on in that little noggin? What's going on? And then I'll be like, what are you thinking about? And nearly always they're just like, nothing.
I just find that unbelievable.
How freeing, though. I'd love that. That would be good.
Right, I've gone over my time. I knew I would. So many people in here, and there should be quite a few roving mics. Where's my brilliant mic people? There. If you've got a question, put your hand up high. Let's go to this person here, yeah. With glasses on her head. Glasses on her head. And then, just so we can keep it quick, has someone got the mic over there with a question? Yeah, brilliant.
Okay. So my question is advice on how to give people advice. So you said before about, oh my God, sorry, I just spilled my drink on and this person sat next to me. I'm so sorry.
Do you notice how strange you just spilled
I'll
drink?
start again. So you said before about when you give friends advice, sometimes you like project your own experiences.
Yeah.
What about the opposite, where you've never gone through anything similar to what your friend is going through? How do you give somebody advice when you have no clue?
A friend?
Yeah, or like if a friend's going through something and you've never been through it, it's like really alien to you. How do you be a good friend?
I mean, I do have this quite a lot because most of my friends are much more grown up than me. So they basically all have children and they're all married. So occasionally I'll be like, oh, I'm having the worst day. Let's go for a cocktail. And then they'll meet up with me. I'm like, ugh, I can't. My invoice to the Sunday Times hasn't cleared or whatever. And they're like, wow, that's really bad. Like, yeah, we think our child might be deaf. Or, like something like... I really hope no one's here by the Sunday Times, by the way. I actually really like writing for them. And they always pay me on time. So don't fucking go on Twitter, any of you.
No, seriously, what stays about that in this tent?
Yeah, so like I find myself like very out of my depth with my friends that have these like very grown up, long relationships. And I think, I mean, that's normally where I feel like, I don't know if that is like relating to what you were asking, but that's normally where I'm like, I just don't know how to advise. And I think the main thing is like just exercising as much empathy as possible. And all empathy is like imagining, like using your imagination to try and imagine what someone's situation might be, just like stretching your imagination as far as possible and then being like as patient and unjudgmental as possible. And also I think it helps as well to caveat everything, which I do with, I don't know anything about what I'm going to say, but here's how I say it from the outside.
Someone already got the microphone over there. Sorry, there's quite tight space. Do you know what? Why don't you shout it and we'll repeat it back? Yeah, you shout, yeah. Should we repeat? Should I just say, she was just asking whether she's ever shared anything about her friends, as so much of her work is, without kind of, offending them, or do you ask their permission to do so? Right.
It's a really good question. I mean, the writer column to being said that, like, if you're a writer, you should spare no one. Like, fuck your great aunt, fuck your best friend. If something interesting has happened in their life, just steal it. And like, the life of a writer is just like not giving a shit about anyone you love. I don't subscribe to that. I don't, there is no piece of work or story that would ever be worth upsetting a friend of mine. I've been doing it a long time. Like, I've been like writing a blog since I was like 15. So I've gotten very used to like what the ethics of it is. And I just clear everything with everyone. And actually what I realise now is what people don't like is surprise. And I've had that, like, I once opened a novel by like a very angry young male who I knew, and I was like, oh, this is me. He's very, very angry at me. And it was a total surprise. And it was like the character was definitely me, and like her job was definitely mine. And I really felt like I felt something had been stolen from me. And I know that if he'd brought me in on it, I get it. Like, this is how we make our work. Like, we have to. So what I now know is like people like feeling like they're part of the creative process, and actually like I constantly am writing stuff down. So like I'll often be in a pub with a friend. Like I was in the pub with my friend. I'm writing a new novel at the moment, and I was in the pub with my friend last week, and she just said something that was so brilliant, this observation, and she could tell I was just twitching. The hand was twitching, and she went, oh, write it down in your iPhone notes. Bloody hell. So that took 10 minutes. And I said, is that okay? So it was something from her life. And I was like, it's really good and it's really pertinent to the story. Do you mind if I take that? And she was like, of course. And I always thank people in the acknowledgements if they've given me stuff or lent me stuff. And I just think running stuff by people, they nearly always will say, yeah, that's fine.
I think there's someone there. Can I just say, just to jump into what you were just saying, though, because it's really interesting as a writer, whether do you like, kind of treat all life experience as sort of something that somewhere in the back of your mind you're thinking of writing down?
Yeah, I'm never in the present moment. I'm always... There'll be something from wilderness that will end up in there. Not everything that I do, it's like there's this writer's eye and then the person experiencing it. It's very weird. I wonder what life would be like without it. It's quite tiring because it's just like I'm constantly looking for material all the time.
I can project. Oh, I don't need to. Hello. Hi, Dolly. You're a goddess. So I'm here as part of my best friend's hen do.
Oh, congratulations.
Congrats, Vic. But as the patron saint of the 30-something organised fun hen do, I wondered if you had any recommendations for games later on.
Don't play games.
Good advice.
No one wants to play games. I know you're a really good friend, and you're like, how do we keep it moving? How do we keep things ticking on? Like, we've got to get people, they're going to lose their energy. We've got to make this fun. All they want to do is just sit and drink cider, so don't worry. But you're a very good bridesmaid for thinking of that.
Did you make a cake?
I'm a bad bridesmaid.
One of the best things you've ever described is the kind of cake story and your decision, like never to make a cake for anyone. I just think it was the most relatable thing, saying I'm too impatient to ice it before it's cooled. I just felt like, I hate baking. Does anyone wait until a cake's cooled until they ice it? How do you do that?
I remember this was so ungrateful of me, because I love cooking. People think I like baking. So there was like all my friends are all Virgos and Leos, so like there was one summer where it was just constantly like fucking Mary Berry up in here, and I was like, and I kept leaving the transporter in the pub, and then you'd have to buy a new transporter on Amazon, and they're too expensive. They're like £30.
That's because you're making cakes, which are enormous.
These enormous cakes, and I remember at the end of the cycle just being a real bitch and just being like, right, never again. Everyone enjoy the cake. This is the last cake I'm ever going to be making, because I don't have the time or the patience, and I don't like making cakes. Happy birthday.
No games, no cakes. Who else has got a question? Yes.
I can do my best to project. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's actually less of a question, but it's something that I personally wanted to say to you if I ever ran into you, which I did at Regent's Park when you were on the phone, and even now just at the Portaloos. You very kindly told me there was no loo roll.
Oh.
I was speechless. And all I wanted to say to you was thank you on behalf of me, a genuine heartfelt thank you. And I'm sure so many women in this tent, because you have made being single okay. And you have opened up so many conversations between the younger generation and the older generation about why we might be single. You go to every family function and they will say, oh, have you met someone? And you go, no, but that's okay. And why didn't you just say, are you happy? Can we rephrase the narrative?
Yeah, very good. That's so sweet of you. I actually
You now have to repeat with your microphone.
I can't repeat a compliment.
I'm only joking, I know.
She was just very, very lovely, and said I'd change the world. She said that I've helped reframe singledom, and I really appreciate that. It was funny, actually, yesterday I've met this lovely girl called Izzy, who's kind of in my extended group at this festival, and we went and watched Flo Perlin, who's amazing, by the way. She's just absolutely incredible. I went and saw her. She's been the highlight of my festival. Are you Flo's mum? Yeah, she told me you were coming. She's so brilliant. You must be so proud of her. But I was watching Flo Perlin, and we were just enjoying the music, and Izzy turned around to me at one point and said, do people know you have a boyfriend, that you're not single anymore? I was like, yeah, I'm not lying about that. And she went, they must be so angry.
I've heard you talk about the fact that because, and you're very kind about it, and you say that because you shared so much, people come up to you and share so much. And I've heard you be very kind, saying, that's fine. They should be able to do that. But I mean, is it fine that people come up?
No, I don't mind it.
Really?
Give me your divorce stories. Tell me about your UTIs.
That happens.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. Infidelity. Thrush problems, any vaginal problems, friendships, broken up friendships, celibacy spells. I don't mind it at all. I really like it, because it's like such a privilege for me to just like bore on about my life as much as I have, and that is like a one-way relationship, so it feels like there's some sort of readdressing of balance when someone lovely comes up to me and says, thank you for writing your book, here's my story. Like, I really enjoy that, because then it just feels like it's not so much of a one-way communication.
You've opened it up, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
I think yes, there we go, you've got the mic already, brilliant.
Hello? Oh, God. I just wanted to say thank you for writing the book Ghosts. I absolutely loved it. I'm in the same sort of situation as the character in the book, and I just really appreciate it. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. Sorry, guys. Really
this is the tent to get emotional in. Don't worry.
Hell,
look around you.
It's the crowd. I really appreciated elements of that being shown in a positive light, the relationship between the dad and the daughter, so thank you.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you. Do you know that means a lot to me because I was really, really nervous about that storyline. That's a storyline about a woman whose father has dementia, because I don't have any experience of it. And I had to, thank you. Well, I did a huge amount of research and people were very, very generous with talking to me about it. And the thing that I think was important is the way that dementia is depicted often on screen, which makes sense because it's more kind of narratively satisfying, is that someone is diagnosed with dementia and then day by day it becomes worse and worse and it's crueler and crueler and they become less and less themselves and it's like a one-way ticket to hell. And actually the more nurses that I spoke to and experts that I spoke to, they said the thing with dementia is it is obviously progressive, but there are moments when it gets better and there are moments when it's like absurdly funny. Like, you know, when my friend told me that she went to see her dad in a care home who thought he was on a cruise ship and showed her round this very basic care home, being like, should we go up to the top deck and get a pina colada in a minute? And she was like, yeah. And I wanted to capture, I didn't want to be doomy and gloomy about it. I wanted to capture the kind of strange absurdity of it. And I don't know if it's the same with your dad, but another thing that I've heard with dementia is sometimes it's not the dismantling of a person or the kind of inversion of personhood. Sometimes actually it kind of makes the person a more concentrated version of who they are, because all the kind of finery that they've been taught of how to be polite and how to hold things back, all of that is gone. So all that's left is this sort of like stock cube of who they are. So yeah, I really enjoyed writing about it, and I'm really pleased that it resonates with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I feel quite genuinely gutted that we've come to an end so quickly. You've done exactly what you do in so much of your work. I've just looked around at people's faces, obviously crying with laughter and then crying other real tears, which is what you do so brilliantly. And it is a total joy, actually, to interview you. And thank you so much for all coming and being such a captivated audience. Thank you, Dolly.
Hannah MacInnes there interviewing Dolly Alderton. One more round of applause.